Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom, and today I have got a special guest for you. Kim Daly is here. She is a franchise expert, she is a business coach, and she is a speaker. And she has broken some amazing records in her career that I can't wait for her to share the details so that she can let you in on that one thing that really caused such a drastic change in her business. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking a little bit offline, and I have to say, not very well versed in the franchise industry. So I'm excited to dig into a little of those details here. But before we get there, can you give our listeners and me as well a little bit of background on kind of how you got into the place where you're at right now?
Yes, because it's not obvious, right?
Yeah.
I didn't grow up going, oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I want to be a franchise consultant, said no one ever. Right. No. So to make a long story short, because they're always long stories, right?
Yes.
I answered a classified ad in the newspaper over the summer between undergrad and going to medical school. That changed my life. It was for a franchise consulting job, not the one I'm part of today. Mm-hmm. After a few days on the job, I was offered a 1-year position. Of course, my father was like, don't do it. You'll never go to medical school. But I was like, of course I'm going to go to medical school. But my dad is always right.
Uh-huh.
But I never had any regrets. I found this franchising industry, which is an industry of people helping people and everyday people waking up to live their own dreams. And if there's one thing I've always been, it's Miss Independent. So when I found an opportunity where like people are working for themselves and I was exposed to this, I was hooked. So I did what everybody who thinks about owning a business does. I left that job and became an entrepreneur.
Of course.
So I was like, I'm going to go it alone. After falling in love with all the collaborative support of a franchise, I was like, nope, Miss Independent's going to go it alone. But sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
Of course you do. So yes.
For 4 years, I ran my own company and I was successful, but entrepreneurship is super lonely. I really needed people. I needed a bigger vision. I needed more systems and tools. I needed everything that a franchise is. So I stumbled my way back to franchising when I was 29. I landed on this business I'm in today called franchise consulting. And who knew that this would be like the greatest business in the world for Kim Daly? But it really is. I mean, I found my home in my people at FranChoice, which is my franchise. I found an opportunity that maximizes my skill sets and drives my passion like through the roof. So here I've been and just, figuring it out and breaking records and making history over and over and over and having the time of my life, helping so many other people change their lives.
I love it. I love it. And as you sit here and say, breaking records over and over again, making history, I know my listeners' ears are like buzzing right now because I have an audience full of high achievers and performers that are always looking to kind of get to that next level, to break their own records and to be super successful. So I know you didn't just start out that way. Obviously, you took that first franchising job and you started your own company. So was there something in particular that happened for you or that you did that really was that, that it factor that caused you to start breaking the records and creating, history?
Yes, there was. So the first 8 years that I was involved in my franchise consulting business, I was an average performing consultant. And during that time, I was getting married and having babies and a little bit distracted, not primarily focused on my business. But back in 2010, I just decided, you know what? I'm tired of the result I'm creating. I want to build something bigger. I set a goal for myself that was more than 3 times bigger than any amount of money I had ever made in franchise consulting. So it was not really based in reality, but I've learned that that's part of the magic, actually. And when I commit myself to something, I am in. Like if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I told one other person because I needed an accountability partner and I needed somebody to breathe life into me when you have those moments which you do on the way to any big big goal, right? Where you start to doubt, who do I think I am? And this can't actually happen for me. So I found a mentor, if you will, who worked with me for that 1 year and just kept my sales inflated through the good and through the bad, and that I could celebrate with. So, but the one thing that I really did, it wasn't even so much about setting the goal. I'd shifted my focus in my business by kind of like conscientiously looking at all the things I have to do as a business owner in my business. What do I actually have control over? Right? Because as business owners, there's many things we have to do, and you can be busy all day long, but busy and productive are not the same thing. But I think that as business owners, we sort of like, we can mask, how we're actually doing. We can kid ourselves. And that's when business owners go months, quarters, 6 months into the year and realize that their business is way off track. Right. And I used to do it. I'm not judging. I used to be that person who would just be like, oh, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. But it never did because I wasn't focused on the right things. So the one thing that I did, Angie, to answer your question is I shifted my focus from all the things I couldn't control, which in my business, which is a business of helping other people invest in franchises, I shifted my focus from the people I was already working with, because I really ultimately don't have control over whether they're going to take a job instead of buying a business or say no. Right. And instead, I shifted my attention to what I could control, which was how many people I was meeting every day who had the dream to change their life. And that one simple thing, 1 year later, made me a history maker.
I love that so much. I mean, a couple of things in there jumped out at me because I share this with clients all the time. And I actually just spoke to a real estate company last week, was doing a speaking engagement on literally your controllables and uncontrollables. It is absolutely amazing how much time people spend on their uncontrollables, trying to move that wall that is absolutely unmovable. What people are going to decide, what people are going to think. It's mind blowing, and there's so many things we can control that we give away, that we don't want to focus on those. We'd rather try to control the things that we can't. So I love that piece of it. And I often tell people, make a T-sheet, on one side, write your uncontrollables, on the other side, write your controllables, and start to know what those are. So for you, I hear one clear distinction there of going, okay, I can't control what people are going to say, and I'm going to control how many people I meet. Was it that simple for you? You just started to control that and off you went and the action happened?
It was that simple the first year, right? Because here's the thing I've learned about achieving success. The more people that know what you're doing, the more your ego is involved, the harder it is to be successful. So I will tell you that the magic of what I did also was
repeat that.
The more people that know what you're trying to do. So here's what happened in reality.
Yes.
After I broke history, right? The CEO of our franchise brought me up on stage. Here's this little girl, in a company, a sea of men. She beat all of you, using me as like the poster child for this is what we want from all of you, right? So now the second year, I felt like I had bullseyes on my back, right? And I didn't really. Everybody was super excited and it inspired the dream in a lot of people.
Sure.
But now my ego was involved because I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
So what really happened, Angie, is the first year was literally all about, well, if I can only control the prospecting part, then I'm going to maximize that. So every single day, I'm going to find one person who woke up today and said, I don't want to go work for somebody else anymore, who's in career transition, who's looking for what I have to offer. Now, when you look back over the course of that first year at how many leads I generated relative to the number of days I worked, because I've analyzed all the data, I was only 80% effective. But 80% effective made me a history maker. So here's the thing. Perfection is not the goal.
Yes.
And I think that if you are at 100% of your goal's too low.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think you're right about that. You said something that was interesting there when you talked about like what your goal was when you woke up every day. You were like, I'm going to find somebody who is no longer, I forget your exact words, but not wanting to do the job that they're doing or not wanting to work for somebody anymore. And that's interesting because you didn't have this goal of going, I'm going to find somebody who wants to, buy a franchise of something. You really kind of backed it up to something that was more reasonable, almost like a pain point for somebody.
Correct. Well, people are only going to change their life. Most of us are motivated more by pain than seeking further pleasure. So
Sure.
it's always in my business, it's always going to be easier to work with somebody who worries about losing their job or has lost their job than the guy or gal who has $10 million who's like, well, it would be nice to add another business. Right? The people who have the greatest pain are more motivated to change their life. And I saw this when I was a personal trainer. It was the same thing, right? The person who just got the diagnosis that you're pre-diabetic is always the person that's going to actually follow through and lose weight versus the person who's just like, well, I put on a few pounds over the holidays. It would be nice to lose it. Right.
Yeah.
So
true.
I think the motivation to change your life, which in my business, where most of my candidates are putting the majority of their life savings into themselves for the first time in their lives and standing up to their own dreams, you've got to have some pretty big motivations behind you, or there's a lot of parts in this process where you'll just sink in the quicksand because the fear and uncertainty and doubt will suck people under all day long, every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I see it. I do. So I do love that part because I have so many clients and listeners that are in business development, that are in prospecting. I mean, you can call it what you want, but they're constantly going out and trying to make those connections. And I think sometimes they have this false goal or this incorrect goal of finding someone who wants to buy their product. And that's not always the best approach. People don't know necessarily that they want to buy your product. And it really is about connecting. It sounds like that's what you did every single day. It's just connect.
Oh, you know what's so great about that?
Yeah.
It's so true. So nobody is buying franchising. Everybody is buying freedom.
Yes.
So I stopped selling franchising years ago, right? Nobody woke up and said, oh, yeah. But what they want is a vehicle that can take their life to this new place, but mitigating the risks of starting a business that we all know are real. And that's what a good franchisor partner can do for somebody. So I'm infinitely more, even when I'm matching companies to somebody, Angie, I'm infinitely more interested in what they want from the business. So we're going to talk about your vision, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Who do you want to be? What do you want to wake up and do every day? What are you chasing? And I want clarity around a vision. If you want to build $50,000 a month in income, let's go. That's the kind of goal that I'm looking for. And then we just let me, with my knowledge of franchising and my relationships, create the right vehicles, the 3 to 5 franchises that I feel are most suited to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. Yes, all day long, I am selling freedom. Franchising is just the vehicle.
Yeah. Is it always freedom? I mean, is that what the underlying motivation is for people that you're working with?
I mean, isn't that the human condition?
Yeah. We would think so, but I know a lot of people who constantly put themselves in a situation for no freedom.
Right. So I think money, people want more money. Maybe they hit a glass ceiling, but again, they're seeking the freedom of being able to control their income. Or maybe they worry that they're always under the pressure of meeting a quota. And if they don't, they're going to lose their job. They want the freedom to be able to build what they want on their terms. They want the freedom to reap 100% of the reward for all the effort they're putting in. They want the freedom to be able to go coach their kids' soccer team at 4:00 on an afternoon if that's what's important to them. They want the freedom to wake up and hire people that they enjoy being around and leading a team of people with their own mission and values, not following what an employer has told them. These are our company, our mission, and our culture. So
Right.
it's freedom defined in many, many different ways, not just like freedom, like, willy-nilly, or
Yes.
being able to just, have a business and not show up. Does that
Yeah.
make more sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's freedom 100 different ways. So I love that. Absolutely. And you said something in there that I also think is a fun conversation around kind of the security or stability of it. I often have this conversation with clients who are starting their business on where the security lies. They're afraid to give up a paycheck. They almost have this false sense of security, like, well, somebody's paying me, so I have this stability and security in this wage and this salary from a company. And to me, because this is just the way my mind thinks, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much less secure and stable to me. I would rather be in the position of making sure that I'm in control of whether or not I fire myself and how much money I can make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the first time people stand up to themselves, I think that our whole system backing up to education and college is rigged toward feeding people into that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so, franchising is an alternative investment, and it sort of requires an alternative mindset. And that's where that pain point comes in, because the people who, and I love it, I'm not judging anyone. If you love your corporate employer and you're satisfied with what you're doing, do it. But
Sure.
even sometimes those people are maxed out and they're still not getting ahead financially. They still know that they're the demographic or the first chopping block at 55 that's going to lose their job. And so there's still a pain point of, I'm not going to be ready to retire. That's when my kids are in college. I need an additional revenue stream. And this is where franchising can come in. Because of the systems and processes and tools that most franchises afford an owner, they get to work on the business rather than in the business, meaning that there are franchises that allow you to keep your full-time job while you're ramping your business as a semi-absentee owner. So you can bridge both worlds, but have the safety net of some portion of income that you own and control, and that may be there beyond a corporate job or in addition to a corporate job. So there's lots of different conversations about why people think about franchising, but it always is sort of an alternative way. It's not the traditional way of go work for a company, invest your money in a 401k. You got to get to that point where you're like, these things are not getting me to where I want to be in my life. And when people start looking for options, that's where Kim Daly wants to come in, because there are even ways for people to use their 401k without creating a taxable event for the purposes of investing in a franchise business. So we can take the whole alternative approach and really teach people how to 100% use what they have to create the life that they aspire to achieve. And we can mitigate those risks by partnering with people who have a demonstrated track record of success that we can lean into and say, wow, well, look what they've done in the past. So it's kind of irrational to think that when they project forward what they want to do and who they want, the brand that they want to build, that they're not going to get there. And we're raising our hands saying, I buy into that vision for your future. I want to take your business plan back to my community and help you achieve that bigger national vision.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So interesting that there's so many alternatives there. Again, I didn't know a lot about franchising, and it sounds like there's so many different options. I'm curious because it is like you're a business owner, obviously, and you talked a little bit about like that first time when your clients are standing up for themselves and they're now getting a little bit uncomfortable from a mindset perspective, believing in themselves, knowing that all the money they're putting into this, they've got to back up. So I'm curious, what do you work on with clients when they get to that little bit of lack of belief or, uncertainty about, can I really do this?
Right. And it's not just their own lack of belief. Since 2020, it was a pandemic.
Right.
And now it's like talk of a recession. Like there's so many complicating factors to this conversation, right? Yep. You're like, oh my God, how does anybody invest in a franchise? But look, lots and lots and lots of people, especially through my process, are saying yes to franchising once they get educated. But it really does require an open mind and an open heart. And I think leadership by someone like me who can walk people through those fears. So the first thing that I do practically, Angie, once somebody raises their hand and says, I think I want to explore franchising, we start with your goals and dreams. So I have a goals and dreams worksheet that I ask everybody to fill out. Because again, I want to know why you're here. Like, what's your why? Where are you trying to go through this business? Because the business that we select for you, or businesses, have to match those potential outcomes, right? Some people want to be owner operator. Some people never want to be in on the ground floor of their business. Well, some people want to be highly active. Some people want to be semi-absent. So by knowing the kind of owner you want to be and the vision you're going to, right away, then the conversation becomes more tailored to your goals and dreams. Yeah. And we hold that goals and dreams worksheet in front of us the entire 1 to 2 months that we're exploring. So typically what happens is everybody starts out giving me all their characteristics and it's very exciting and there's no fear. And then we introduce the franchisors and we go on what I call the blind dates, right? Because you don't know what kind of companies I'm going to come back with. I'm just going to ask you to go together and have a conversation and see what happens. So now I become the dating coach. So people come back and now they went from not knowing anything about companies to being experts. Okay, this is the first sign of fear, right? Like we create these assumptions or limiting beliefs in our mind to make things wrong so we don't have to say yes. Right? Absolutely. So this is again where left on your own, you're probably going to walk away altogether. When you work with Kim Daly, though, I recognize it for what it is. And sometimes it's real. Sometimes there are real objections. But most of the time, it's a simple conversation about, is that an assumption you're making or is that a fact that you heard the franchisor say? You know, it's me kind of pointing out in a very gentle way, okay, wait. Let's be sure that what you're thinking or saying is in fact true inside the franchise system. Because what happens is people start responding as consumers, but I need you to think like an investor. An investor says, who is my customer? An investor isn't worried about the competition necessarily. They're worried about how they're going to get to the people that they need, understanding that they don't need everybody. They only need a sliver of the pie. So our due diligence process is brought back to what size of that pie do I need and want to make the kind of money that I want? And then how do I attract those people? How do I serve those people? How is the franchisor going to support me? And then what am I adding or what am I bringing in with a team of people? And so that's where the decision actually lies. So there's no guarantee in a franchise because the franchisor can have the best systems and processes in the world, but it's how the owner shows up and executes. And how you show up and execute is going to come back to how convicted you are that you want to be a successful business owner and how much you have your goals and dreams plastered everywhere. Because all during this process, you're going to bump up against that fear and uncertainty, especially when you've been awarded the opportunity and it's the night before your signing call and that phone call comes in you've been waiting for 3 months with your dream job offer. Yeah. I love it. People call me and they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. You get to make a choice. And I'm not judging your decision. Who do you really want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Yeah, the easy thing is to say yes to the job in the short term. But does that get you where you want to be in the long term? If it does, take the job, right? But the more that people like put themselves in this arena and face that fear, the easier that fear gets. And here's the thing, after you say yes, there's a whole new set of fears that you're, but here, the idea in a franchise is that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So you don't have to solve these problems all on your own. There's a family of other franchisees who have all the same insecurities and fears as you. Some of them are going to be ahead of you and they're going to be able to say, hey, do what I did. Some of them are behind you and you're going to be saying to them, hey, do what I did, right? So there's this collaboration in franchising. It's not just a corporate office with, the bylaws of how it's going to go, but it's a family of franchisees who are all shareholders in the same brand, who want to help each other, who want to lift each other, because when we all do better, our brand equity becomes stronger and worth more
Right.
to investors who want to buy our businesses.
Right, absolutely. And I heard so much coaching in there when I asked about, the mindset and what people face and how they kind of get through that. And I really heard you step into kind of that coaching role, asking them the questions that, really brings the reality of the situation instead of maybe the stories they're making up, those limiting beliefs popping up and working them through that. So I definitely see your coaching role there. And, you also said something that is really interesting in the sense of not looking at the competition, but focusing on like, what do you need to create to get the result that you want, to make the money that you want? And it's almost like this proactive approach, right? We're going to get on the offense instead of the defense. We don't need to beat everybody out there. We need to focus on what we want to create. And I think that is parallel to business in general, right? Whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, franchise owner, anything like that. And it's so important because I think we get wrapped up in going, well, what about this person? What about this person? And how am I going to be, the best, when sometimes that's not even the goal.
It's so true. And I take people through, I teach people a series of questions that I want them to validate out in their franchise system. It's what I've come to call my daily plan. Because going back to my story, that first year that I made history, there was no plan other than to focus on the prospecting rather than the people I was already working with, to control what I could control and maximize that. But in that second year, when I had all the bullseyes on my back, and I really didn't want to be a one-hit wonder, I was like, okay, by focusing on that one thing, what did I actually do? So now I had all my own key performance indicators. Like I had all my own numbers and data, and every franchise out there gathers all the same data. So I was able to pull like lead sources and like when the leads came from, like which ones was there a correlation when they bought or what they bought or the timing in which they bought. Well, there were so many in my face correlations when I started looking at my data that it allowed me to make some very smart choices and be able to work smarter rather than harder from that year on. And what I say is to every business owner, the first year you go out after training with the franchisor, you're just going to take massive, imperfect action. You're just going to throw a lot of mud at the wall. Some of it's going to be good mud and some of it's not, but experience is the only teacher here. We can teach you, but until you experience it, you can't learn it. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of hearing no. You can't get to the yes if you don't know what the no is, because how do you know how to overcome an objection until you've heard the objection a few times, right? So you have to be willing to put yourself in the arena and learn. After the first year, you got to do what I did. You got to sit with yourself, look at all of your data, and now you're going to spend the rest of your life as a business owner mining your data and mastering the art of your business. Not all of it at once. You're going to pick parts of it, whether it's employee hiring and retention, or whether it's a sales funnel and closing sales, looking at your closing ratios. And then as recessions and presidential elections and things happen, pandemics happen, these things come in, and it doesn't have to like put you in the fetal position if you're proactive and you understand that these are just new objections that we have to figure out how to overcome. And again, the beautiful thing of a franchise is you don't have to figure it out all by yourself.
Which is so key. I mean, it's why coaching works. It's why group coaching, masterminds, people want to be around other people who can relate, who can empathize. And I mean, to be honest, one of the biggest things I hear when I do groups and masterminds is, you know what, this sounds horrible to say, but I'm so glad I'm not the only one who feels this way. Like misery loves company, right? We want to make sure that we're not the only one going through this. So I think that's so key. And I'm glad you brought up some of those steps, because in any business, it's about getting the data. You have to have the data in order to know what to do next, in order to, I like to refer to it as your recipe. You have to create a recipe and know how to make that award-winning, chili cake, whatever you want, again and again, and to know how to double it, triple it, quadruple it if you want more of it. And oftentimes, I see business owners out there just doing as much as they can, as fast as they can. There's no recipe creation. They're just like frantically creating business. And then when it comes time to do it again in the next year, it's so overwhelming because they don't have a recipe. They just need to keep running and doing it all over again. So I love that you're saying massive imperfect action that first year, gather the data. Then that second year, really mine the data so you know what's working, and it almost becomes a rinse and repeat, right?
It does. And where I got off track there was when I'm coaching my candidates, I give them what I now call my daily plan. And
Yes.
I love how you use your last name and that's amazing. But so do I. So, I'm always like, wink, wink, your daily plan. But what I help people do is break down their annual income goals via their average ticket to really figure out how many unique customers do you need. And when we do that one simple exercise, those worries about competition, it's like if you're worried, then you know what? Maybe owning a business is not the right thing for you. So like a franchisor is going to award you a territory. Let's say the territory is defined as 50,000 qualified people, and we break your numbers down, and you need 200 people to have $1 million business. It's like, you don't care if there are 20 other competitors.
Right.
When you get clear about how many customers you need and exactly who your customer is, because you may get people that you end up referring to the quote competition because you don't want that customer, right? So
absolutely.
It's all about getting clear and specific. The plan is very, very simple. I even coach my people to go to Staples and get a really big a calendar. You know those calendars we used to put under the glass?
Yeah.
We're showing our age a little bit, but okay.
Yes. Love it. Love it.
But the visual is very important, especially if you have kids and you want this to be a family business. When I hear people say, I want a legacy, let the legacy not be the specific business, but the role model that you are. Because look, I'm a parent. My kids don't do what I say. They drive me crazy because they don't do what I say, but they do what I do. So when you dare to become a business owner, the legacy you're leaving your kids is the role model that you are as a business owner. So get them involved. So go get the big paper calendar, and at the end of every year, November, December, this is planning time. Get out the big, pink magic marker and talk to your family about when are we going to go on vacation. I want you to plan your vacation before you plan your business. If you don't want to feel enslaved to your business, you can do that by being proactive.
Yeah.
So a mentor taught me years ago, you can work as little as you want, Kim. It just means you have to be that much more effective on the days that you come to work. So this is the way you do it. You plan for your weeks, and I give everybody 4 weeks of vacation from year one. You're going to work hard. You got to play hard. It doesn't have to be 4 full weeks, but you need the equivalent of those days. So we're going to build your daily plan off of 48 weeks, and we're only going to use 5 out of 7 days. Even if your business operates 7 days, we're only going to be driving the business forward with whatever sales process you have 5 out of 7. So 5 times 48 gives us a bank of 240 days to play with. So now when we look at their revenue goal, the average ticket, we can figure out how many customers. And now we can look at, well, how hard do we have to work each day that we come to work? And then if you have a closing ratio to where okay, well, I have to bid on 3 jobs to get one, then we have to back it in to say we need the marketing or referral sources to create those 3 appointments that then we need to go out on. We don't worry about the 2 no's, which is what so many people do. They get so stuck on the no that they carry that energy into the 3rd appointment, which is statistically the one they're going to get the yes on. But they don't get it because their attitude and focus is on getting a no. So it becomes a mindset shift. And again, maximizing what we can control, having a simple, clear plan. I'm not saying that execution is easy, but I am saying that the plan is simple. And I'm telling you, I know this not because I read it in a book. I know it because I figured it out year over year. For the last 12 years, I have made history, broken history, made my own history again and again and again by simply using this daily plan. Always, it's like going to the gym and disciplining yourself to go to the gym, to where eventually when you don't go to the gym, it feels weird, right?
Yeah.
The
So
same thing.
true.
When my daily plan is not first and foremost in my mind, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. And so I can bring my business back, but after you do it so much, the muscle memory is so strong. Like, I don't come to work to be busy. I
Right.
come to
Right.
work to be productive, right? I
Yeah.
have to be busy sometimes too, but productive first and productive always. And whenever my business is off track, here's the thing, the last thing I'll say.
Yeah.
I don't go looking, blaming Trump or or the economy or the pandemic or whatever anybody wants to blame it on. I look in the mirror and I blame myself. What are
Mm-hmm.
you focusing on instead of what you should be focusing on? Get your head back in the game, get back to your daily plan, focus on prospecting, that one thing, and within a day, a week, a month, my whole reality will turn around and so will yours.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I mean, responsibility, right? And too many times people fall into that victim mentality and you blame it on something else and then you're powerless. You can do absolutely nothing about it until you take responsibility for it. So
It's so
100%
much
agree
easier
with you
though to
there.
blame somebody else. And it's so
I
much more fun
know,
to not be the one
right?
that's wrong.
Get your ice cream, sit on the couch, blame somebody else, and wait for things to turn around, right? But
I'm
it
not
really,
judging anybody because we all do it, right? It's
oh,
just recognizing it and going, okay, all right,
yeah,
I have
trust
to be the
me.
one to fix this. No one's going to do it for me. But
So
I'm a
true.
big girl
Yeah.
pants. I can do it.
No judgment. I mean, there's a little truth behind every joke, right? So I'm talking from experience here. I've gotten that ice cream and sat on the couch before, but it is the responsibility. And I like how you broke down the plan because that's crucial. And I do that with clients all the time and going, let's make this achievable. What do you have to do on a daily basis to get this done? When you look at like the major year picture, it can feel overwhelming, but you break it down. And so many times people go, oh, well, I can do that. That's not that hard. So love breaking it down. But the $1,000,000 question for you, Kim, because you have broken records, because you've, you know, achieved 3 times your goal that you set for yourself. The thing that people always ask is like, well, what if I'm not consistent? And what if I'm not disciplined? They have such a hard time showing up every single day to take that action. What is your best advice there for those people who are having a hard time? Like, can't get myself to do it.
Yeah, but so what? So it was hard for me in the beginning too.
Yeah.
But if you want the outcome, and these are the ways to get there, then you have to take the first step and not judge yourself when you're not consistent. Just like dieting, just get back on the diet. Like, just go back. So you didn't do it this week. Okay. On Monday morning or Sunday night, do it. And what I like, just like when I was a personal trainer, when you first join that gym and you try to create the habit, it's drudgery. Nobody wants to do it, right?
So
but
true.
as you start to see some result from your actions, it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier. So trust the process that once you are a little bit consistent, you're going to see some payoff. And that payoff is what keeps you motivated to keep being consistent. But the other things you do is you surround yourself with people, get an accountability group. You mentioned, mastermind. Well, a franchise is nothing more than a giant mastermind, right? That was like perfect. Yes. So find an accountability group so that you can hold yourself like a personal trainer, right? But for business, right? That's what a business coach is. And then the other thing, like if I was to pan the camera around my office, I have my goals plastered everywhere. Like these are unconscious and conscious signs to me of why I am here, who I want to show up as for all the people I'm going to get on the phone with today, and what's motivating me to want to do all of this, right? When I'm working from home, I could be down doing other things or out doing things, right? So you have to get to that why. That's why I start there, because why, you're not changing your life. Right. And it doesn't mean you're always going to stand strong in that why. You're totally going to waver. Totally going to waver. But that's where you have an accountability partner who you told your why to. Like I had that mentor who held me accountable when the fear and the doubt, you better believe it's going to creep in. because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more comfortable to be in your sweatpants than it is to be in your high heels and your suit or whatever your analogy is, right? But like,
Yes.
if you want what you say you want and you feel worthy of it, then you have to make yourself like take the first step. And that's why we have these daily plans, because you're right. The $1 million mountain is like, how do I do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you say, I'll only have to find one person today, and that's my daily focus, okay, I can probably do that.
We can do it. Absolutely. My guests, I always like to ask you, you've shared a tremendous amount of your wisdom with us today, and I'm grateful for that. But I always like to know, what is the best wisdom that anybody has ever shared with you that you kind of planted and taken with you along the way?
Yep. So this is easy. My favorite book is Earl Nightingale. I'm having do you know the book I'm going to say?
I
Well,
don't.
the wisdom is that, like, as you think and speak, so shall your life be. Here's a James
Yes.
Allen book there, As a Man Thinketh, in there too. But the Earl Nightingale book, it's a 25-minute Audible, free on YouTube.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm totally just having a space moment. I actually have my kids reading it. I've had them read it. I pay them to read it, because it basically says that if you want to change your life, change the way that you think. And it was the first book that made it so simple for me. That's something simple to hear, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
But when you hear that book, can you believe it? It's like my favorite book. It's just because we've had such a great, invigorating conversation.
The Strangest Secret, The Mindset for Success?
No.
Huh.
It's like one of his first and best-selling books. Oh my gosh. That's so pathetic. Well, the idea is that your words create your reality.
Yes.
And so if you can be very conscious of how you're thinking, because how you think will determine how you speak, sort of all flows back to what you're thinking about. And so flooding your mind with like positive messaging, whatever fills you up, meditation, prayer, YouTube videos, motivational books. Everybody's going to be a little bit different in how they can feel empowered in their mind.
Yeah.
Setting yourself up to win by having that empowered mindset, because what you're constantly thinking about, I'm passionate. I'm constantly thinking about my goals. And I believe in myself. So I know that if I can believe it, I can achieve it. And so it makes me passionate about what I do, because I'm on a journey to an outcome that I know, even though it's not real to me today, it's as real in my imagination as it's going to be when I get there. And when I get there, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I've stood here a million times. But that's a process that I've learned by reading a lot of really good motivational books,
right,
and then following through on the tips and tricks that they offer. Positive affirmations, like so many of those things, putting all of those tools into practice. And then again, using it as a daily discipline. It's not something I learned overnight. I just started where I started, chip away at it, and day by day, year by year, get incrementally better. But you don't have to be perfect. Like, that's the major lesson of year one for Kim Daly, was 80% effective made me a history maker.
Unbelievable. I love it. And I love that what your wisdom was that you took from somebody else is really about what you're believing and what you're thinking and what your actions are. I have a morning mindset journal that I put all my clients on, and I should send one out to you. I'll get your address and send it to you, because it is literally this daily habit, right? Of setting your intentions, of writing your affirmations, of creating that visualization, because you have to have that time with yourself every day. Yeah. And you're
affirmations right here.
Yes,
I have a stand-up desk. They're right under. I start my day with them as well.
we have to put in our mind what we want it to believe. So wonderful wisdom there. I love it. This has been so much fun chatting with you. As far as people reaching out to you, you have a wonderful TV channel, Kim Daly TV, kimdaly.tv, right, where people can see that. in the thought of people being able to seek freedom across all the different avenues of freedom, to be able to talk to you to say, this is what I want in my life. Find the right business for me, find the right franchise for me. It's just so fun. It's like shopping for your dream company. Yes.
And it's free.
I
You don't even have
love
to pay
it.
me any money for it. It's totally
Oh my gosh.
free.
So fun. So fun. So if people want to find you, you are at thedailycoach.com. You're on Instagram, right? Kim Daly, or is that right?
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
The best place, Angie, really is my YouTube channel. I'm super proud of all the content that we've been able to create over the last couple of years that I've really turned to social media. So Kim Daly, my last name is Daly, kimdaly.tv, all things franchising, business coaching, mindset coaching, startup failures, why. I mean, so much content there. And then from there, you can find all of my email addresses and contact information.
Love it. Y'all go give Kim a follow. Her energy is absolutely off the charts. And who doesn't want to talk to somebody who is making history and breaking through goals? Totally throwing the SMART goal acronym out the window. Who needs a realistic goal? We're going 3 times what we want to achieve here. So I love it. Thank you for joining us, Kim. And thank you all for listening. I hope that you found a little wisdom in this episode and also a little inspiration to figure out what freedom do you want and how are you going to get it?